Hi there, just say thank you for the support of our books. I thought I'd do some summaries on the IEB poems, and I think it's a good way to revise, but just always compare it to the notes that your teacher give you. This is just to revise it or to study it quickly, a little crash course on it, if you know what I mean. So just to say thank you to Moira Campbell for making all the poems available to me and also sharing some of her notes. It's really helped. So this is the first one. Remember, if you the books, if you don't have the books, where have you been? Why don't you have them? If you struggle with grammar, struggling to pass, or if you just want to turn a 70 into an 80 or just consolidate an A, these are the books that you need to have for the IB exams, for your trials, for grade 11, 10. You can even use it for grade 8 and 9. Okay, but getting on with the poem, I thought we'd start with Strelitzia. Annie Klopper, she wrote the poem, and this is typical of her work. She wrote her master's thesis on the band Volksmuziek and their lyrics. So this poem coincidentally fits into her sort of work and what she's interested in. I think she works for LitNet now, and she's sort of a music journalist. Anyway, so let's go through the poem. Strelitzia, we'll read it together there. It's of course this plant, we all know it, the paradise, what's it, the paradise bird, flower. And so let's just read the poem. You'll see here that I have the poem and then some translations and then some notes that we'll go through just very quickly, some notes that I made. I think the easiest way would, if you want the notes, screenshot the whole thing and then just print it out, or otherwise get your teacher just to email her, and I'll email the OneNote file to him or her, and you guys can print it out. I'm going to try to do all the poems. It does take a while though, but anyway, let's read through it. Dit was reeds te laat vir verskoningsmaak. Toe mevrou Susan van Breda enkele sekondes nadat sy die oggend om stiptelik 7 uur met 'n lang sigaret tussen gladde naels agter die stuur van haar luukse sedan ingeskuif het, skielik geskok na die linkerkant van haar simmetries geplaveide suursteen oprit staar. Dit was reeds te laat vir verskoningsmaak. Ja, maar dalk, indien sy nie so besig was om met die staar aan verskonings te dink nie, sou sy dalk ten minste kon kop waarom haar seun haar Strelitzia stikkend wou skop. Okay, so it's a lady driving, obviously driving to work or about to drop off this kid at the school, this teenager, her son, and as she drives out, out the garage, she sees that he's breaking her flowers. He's quite an aggressive action there of breaking this flower. Okay, so let's just, before we go into the meaning of all of this, which I have here for you, let's just look at some of the translations. Strelitzia, that's the flower. Note that it has a small s there. We'll talk about that later. Dit was reeds te laat vir verskoningsmaak. It was already too late to make excuses. Verskonings is excuses, eh? Toe mevrou Susan van Breda enkele sekondes, few seconds after she, that morning, stiptelik is precisely, okay, on time. Let me just move this down. Precisely on time, she pulled out of her driveway. Stiptelik is precisely, okay, on time. Met 'n lang sigaret, with a long cigarette, she's smoking a long cigarette. Tussen gladde naels, smooth nails. She goes behind the steering wheel. She sits behind the steering wheel in her luxurious car, sedan ingeskuif as she sort of moved in or sat down or shifted into her car. Then skielik, suddenly, she's shocked. Okay. Na die linkerkant van haar symmetries geplaveide suursteen oproetstaar. She's staring there at the left side of her very symmetric driveway, and it's paved, geplaveide driveway. It's paved with expensive stones. Okay, she stares to the left of the driveway because something is happening there. The boy is there. He's busy breaking the flowers. Dit was reeds te laat vir verskonings maak. It was too late to make excuses. Again, we have that reference to making excuses, which we'll talk about later. And then ja, maar, dalk, yes, but, maybe. Okay, all single words. Indien, in case sy nie so besig was, in case she wasn't so busy while staring, met die staar saam, together with staring, again, aan verskonings te dink nie, thinking about excuses. She's already trying to think about excuses for why this kid is breaking her flowers, or trying to excuse his behavior, or trying to excuse her failure, if you like, as a parent. However, we'll look at that more carefully later. So sy dalk ten minste redes kon kop. If she wasn't like shocked and staring, she could think of reasons. Kop is as in understand. In Afrikaans you say ek kop iets. I understand it. I have my mind wrapped around it. I can head it. I can understand it. Okay, so it's just a saying. That's so that kop can rhyme or rhyme with skop at the end. You see there? Kop rhymes with skop. Okay, so it gives that last line a little bit more impact. Okay? So sy dalk aan verskonings kan dink nie, so sy dalk ten minste redes kon kop waarom haar seun haar Strelitzia stikkend wou skop. He's kicking her flowers. If she wasn't so shocked, and if she wasn't thinking about excuses all the time, she could maybe really understand and start to unpack why this kid is breaking her flowers. Okay. So those are the translations. Cool. Let's look at some of the notes I have here for you, just to really, it's not a difficult poem at all. If you understand Annie Klopper's work, it's always about some sort of protest, teenage protest, people in their early 20s protesting against the norms of society, the rules that society wants to impose on us. And that's, I think she's influenced by the ideas and thoughts of Francois van Kock and his band. So if you understand that, you can understand the poem. Okay, title. Now, while I'm going through this, I'm going to really aim at what they could possibly ask about the poem. So it's wonderful to sit and chat for hours about poetry, but at the end of the day, you've got 10 marks that you have to get for this poem in the exam, or in your trials, or whatever, or in your tests. Some of you will still have poetry tests. So I'm really the notes are really geared towards what they could possibly ask, and the title is definitely something that they would shoot for. I would ask questions about the title. Strelitzia. Why Strelitzia? Why did she choose that type of flower, not some other type of flower or some other random plant? Knowing the poet here, it would definitely carry meaning. It's not that she just randomly thought of that. So Strelitzia, it becomes quite a powerful symbol towards the end of the poem. but we've got a note on that later. But just to start off with, it's a baie deftige, it's a very fancy, mooi, sort of a pretentious plant almost. If you look at this thing, I mean, there it is. It's such a showy, sort of a bit of show flower. It's like a sort of classy, upper class sort of thing. They're very gewild. I said they're very popular in sort of middle class woonbuurte or suburbs. You can say suburbs just like that in Afrikaans as well. Apparently they grow quite slowly and they're a long-term project. Okay, and later we'll link the Strelitzia to growing a Strelitzia. Is almost like raising a child. It's a long-term project. It's slow. Lots of things can go wrong. Okay, so we'll look at what it symbolizes later. We'll just they could also ask that as a title. So we'll let me not draw too much here. Okay, let's take that away. Okay, so what could they ask here? They'd ask, well, what type of flower is it? It's also called the paradijs voelblom. Okay, that's the other name for it. I doubt they would ask that. However, I would definitely ask something about the symbolism that is created, the symbolisme van die titel, van die blom. What does it actually represent or stand for? But I've got a note on that later, so let's just go on. Alright, so the poem talks about making excuses, verskonings. Making excuses. Okay. This could have two possible interpretations, I think. First of all, she tries to think of excuses for her boy's behavior, gedrag. Probeer aan verskonings uitdink vir haar seun se gedrag. Okay, for his weird behavior, his aggressive, rebellious behavior of breaking this plant. Okay, or is she trying to make excuses for her failure as a parent? Yeah, she's this fancy lady. She's quite clearly important, as we'll see now. However, her son is involved in some quite deviant behavior, breaking her precious Strelitzias. Okay, because he knows that's what will hurt her. Okay, so there's just note there. I would definitely ask something about the excuses, the verskonings. Comes up there, it comes up there, it comes up there. Okay, so it's very hard to ignore that when you're shooting for your 10 marks, when you're setting questions. If I was the examiner, I would definitely ask something about all these excuses. Okay, so she's excuses for her son's behavior and excuses for her failure as parents. Okay, but there is the note for you. Okay, now this lady, Susan van Breda, and I see in Mrs. Campbell's notes that I agree with that. They say her full names, Susan van Breda. Why would they do that? It's almost like she's too important just to be named by her surname, and it's Mevrou Susan van Breda. Okay, she's klink na, so I said just made a note for you on that. It sounds like she's a belangrike vrou in die gemeenskap. She's important. Her full names are mentioned. She is stiptelik. Okay, she's very punctual, on time. Besig, she's very busy, clearly. Doesn't have time to waste. We see that there by enkele secondes. See there? Few seconds after 7, she pulls out of her driveway. Not a minute, few seconds. Okay, it impliceer. Sy is belangrik. That could be a question. I might ask something about those seconds there. Elke seconde is vir haar belangrik. That would be the answer. It implies her time is valuable. Let's just add that. There are tyd is waardevol. Let's just maybe add that as well. I would shoot for that for sure. Okay, then there's these what is it? Parenthese, what's it in English? Parentheses, something like that. Impossible to say. Gee extra inligting. These things always give extra information. Okay, I would also ask something here. You can't just say in a question, if they ask something about the parentheses, that it gives extra information. So what? I would want to know what the function is. Why are they there in the first place? Okay, so wat is die funksie van die parenthese? Maybe something like this. You may state it differently. Dit plaas die leser binne die besige lewe van Susan, waar sy baie in die rede geval. So it places the reader inside the busy life. We get a sense of her life, how busy she is, and where she's interrupted often. Because a parenthese interrupts the flow of the poem. You can almost, busy people, they often, obviously, like teachers, they are interrupted the whole time. Often interrupted. So that's the function there. It's typical of her poetry, is that she is what they call an uitstel technique. She postpones the outcome of the poem. Okay, it builds tension, it bou spanning, if you like. Okay, let's just add that as well. Bou spanning. So uitstel technique. It's just a technique where you postpone the ending of the poem. Okay. Then they could ask me about the long cigarette. Personally, I wouldn't really. It's those long, thin cigarettes. They're lady cigarettes, eh? It's often a status symbol. Okay, they're more expensive than your normal cigarettes. I wouldn't know personally. A friend told me. They have she has smooth nails there, so her nails were done recently. She has a luxury car. Okay, that shows that she has a above average, bo gemiddelde inkomste. She's quite rich. Okay, gegoede vrou. Okay, she's quite rich. She has money. It's all about status and norms here. Okay. Then those words skielik en geskok. You'll see in the poem here, they're standing alone. You see there? There's a lot of white paper around these two words. Why? I would say in the question, say die typografische isolasie, typographical isolation, or the alleenplasing, putting those words alone on a line. What does it achieve? That would be my question. What bereikt dit? Wat is die funksie daarvan? Okay, so it's two. It's om die skok en verstomming te beklemtoon. She's so shocked, she's so dumbfounded. It emphasizes those things, okay, because those words stand alone. It's also, again, the uitstel technique, postponement technique, to heighten, increase the spanning, tension. Okay? It says there, linkerkant, the left, the boy is standing to the left of the driveway. Okay? That's in contrast with the word symmetrical. This boy is everything but symmetrical and perfect. Okay, he's to the left. Okay, he's off center. He's in more than one way, if you know what I mean. Okay, iets is nie reg nie. Something is not right with this kid. Something's not right with this kid. Then there's the word suursteen. Again, it's expensive rock. It shows that she's a rich, gegoede, ryk vrou. Yeah, just a side note. No mention of the father, hey? In a normal household, the father would probably run out and clout this kid and discipline him, but die pa is afwesig. As jy lyk of die pa afwesig is. Okay, oops. Pa is afwesig. Alright. And also the word links, left. If you say someone is she has a left way of thinking. In other words, they're more liberal. Maybe this is a liberal household and the parenting has flopped a bit. Maybe it says something about her political or social viewpoints. I said it there in the note. Okay. Then it says there weer verskonings maak. Alright. Again, the emphasis on making excuses. Rather than fixing the problem, they're just making excuses. Die herhaling, so it's the repetition. I would ask, why is it repeated? Why is it repeated? There's redes could also be seen as excuses. I would ask something about the repetition. It wys, and this would be the answer. It doesn't really matter how you state the question. This will be the answer. Die herhaling wys sy moes al baie deur die seun se gedrag verduidelik. Okay, so she had to explain the boy's behavior many times before to friends, to teachers, to neighbors, and so on. Okay, and also she's had to justify it to herself. Why has her parenting failed? She appears to be successful in other areas of life. However, when it comes to his son, something went wrong. Okay, hy's ook just a note I made. Use it, don't use it. He's also a long-term project, just like her, Strelitzia, but he wasn't successful. The flower clearly was, well, until it got smashed. But yeah, maybe there's a comparison we can draw between the flower and the boy. Okay, then those words, jaar, maar, dalk, over there. Okay, again, spanning weer uitgestel. It emphasizes die skok. If you don't know what emphasizes mean, learn it very quickly. It's your best friend. Beklemtoon die skok. Important here. Sy dink aan verskonings, nie redes waarom haar seun so destruktief reageer nie. She's thinking of, there's a difference between thinking of excuses and thinking of reasons for someone's behavior. If she really understood the reasons, she could maybe do something about it. And that's the whole point of this poem, is she's just making excuses, she's not thinking of the deep-seated reasons why her son is acting in this way. Okay? There's a note on that later. Met die staar saam, staring. Okay? She's still staring. Die skok van haar seun se gedrag, the shock is absolutely paralyzing. Het verlam haar. Verlam is paralyzing. Gedrag is behavior. Okay? Also, that word dalk, maybe, if you weren't so busy, it almost sounds like a comment from the narrator. Maybe if you weren't so busy thinking of excuses, you could understand the reasons why your son's reacting this way. Okay, so it's almost like sarcasm there from the narrator. Very subtle. I almost missed it. But it's there. Okay. Die seun weet dit sou sy ma kwaad maak as hy so 'n belangrike plant breek. Okay, so he knows which buttons to push. He knows how to get the attention that he feels he needs. Alright, whether it's positive or negative attention. He is breaking her valuable plant. Okay, so why this plant? Now we're getting back to that title, Strelitzia. And this is the note that I took. I said that the Strelitzia almost becomes a symbol of the mom's social status and her failure as a mother. There we go. Sounds fancy. It becomes a symbol of the mom's social status and her failure. Okay. It's also a symbol of the boy's rebellion against his mother's gesag, authority. He's rebelling. Hy staan op teen sy ma se gesag. And that's also typical of her work. Is always about and also the folk of Polisikar music is all about rebelling against authority and so on. Okay, against the norms and standards that society wants to impose on us. Okay, Susan spandeer meer tyd aan haar tuin as aan haar seun. I just put that in as well. Maybe she spends more time on her garden than she does on her son. She is in fact the absent mother, and evidently we could guess that the father is also absent. Okay. We also say die ma is net so deftig soos die blom. She's just as fancy as the flower. So by him breaking the flower, he's trying to break down this this image of status that the mother has built up for herself. Okay, if there was something about the theme of the poem, here's just a note, one suggestion. You could find something else. It doesn't matter. Die ma is so vasgevang, she's so caught in her middle class bestaan, middle class existence, that she doesn't understand the rebellious, opstandige behavior of her son. She doesn't understand it. She just tries to make excuses for it. She doesn't have the time or effort or enough love, maybe, enough love to understand it fully. It's typical of Annie Klopper's work. The rhyme, there's no rhyme here. It's a free verse here. However, so geen rhyme schema. It's pointless saying, well, there's no rhyme, and then leaving it there. There's got to be, you've got to connect it to the meaning of the poem. You can't just say there's no rhyme. So it ends there. It's very fitting that there's no rhyme in this poem. Why? That would be the question that I would shoot for. Is why is it so fitting that there's no rhyme scheme? There's no order. There's no structure really to the poem. It's very loose. It's very, very loose. So I just said it pas by die idee. It fits with the idea that there's no begrip, no understanding for the boy's problems and behavior. Only net verskonings, excuses. Fits with the idea that there's no understanding of the boy's problems and behavior, only excuses. Maybe that is the theme of the poem, I would say. Okay, so that's the poem in under half an hour. I'm going to try stick to that sort of time frame. It's still, I think it's a pretty fast way to revise the poems. Screenshot this thing and print it if you would like. I think it's all on one page there now. In fact, let me just erase everything here so you've got a nice clean screenshot of the notes. Hope it helps. And just once again, thank you to Moira for helping me out here and for your support with the books and everything. It's been awesome. And also remember, if you want to revise grammar, there is the fastest way. You don't need extra lessons, you don't need all those expensive things. get the book, pay the $200 or whatever at CNA. The books are available at CNA. Please go to CNA, pick up a copy for yourself and for your friend, and tell them about it. And you'll find my contact details in on the YouTube channel. Also, if you want to see grammar videos, they are there. I'm sure you've seen most of those. So thanks for all the comments and the support. I really appreciate it. I hope this free resource helps you to prepare for the poetry and the exam. Okay, there's your screenshot. Signing out, and I'm going to record another poem tonight. Bye.